Good evening, ladies of the temple. Welcome to tonight's Temple Talk. Excited to be here with you tonight, here in the middle of the wintry February time. So tonight we're going to be talking about the healing power of self-love. So these weekly temple trainings are the core that I teach through the Mystic Priestess program and on the Mystic Priestess path. And so take note, grab your journal, plan to be with me for about 20-ish minutes or so. Spirit always decides how much to bring through. And this is really the core teaching that women pay good money to learn. And so these are really valuable trainings. And moving forward, my team's going to be compiling these trainings and turning them into DIY training programs. So these temple trainings will only be around for a couple of weeks at a time, and the team will be taking them down to compile them for my larger community. They'll become aspects of our training programs. So this is a great time to get this information fresh as it comes through, because I'm always weaving in what's happening collectively, astrologically, politically, socially, for myself, my colleagues, our community, and our global network, and distilling it down into the spiritual message. What is the bigger meaning behind what's happening, and how can we make the most of the deeper learning? So that's what these talks are all about. I say talks, and they're really trainings. So whatever word works for you. So welcome, new ladies, to the temple. Excited to have you here. I do these regular Tuesday temple trainings, 6 o'clock Eastern during the winter hours, and then we shift till later in the evening as summer returns, because I'm out in the evenings frolicking in the forest and playing in the waterfall and want to make the most of the summertime, right? And really just follow the energy. So welcome, welcome. So why the healing power of self-love? So this being the week of Valentine's, it's on most people's minds, whether you're into that sort of thing or not. Collectively, it's the energy of love, of recognizing our beloveds, whether you're in a loving partnership or whether it's your sister friends or your community neighborhood, maybe those people that you work with, basically appreciating and showing love. And so I wanted to weave in this week the healing power of self-love and why it's so important, and why it's actually the first pillar of the Mystic Priestess path that I teach during the 9-month immersive process. So essentially, as I was tuning in about what exactly to share tonight and what the core messages want to come through this week. So grabbing your journal to take some notes, because often Spirit will guide me to share some journaling processes for you. So why self-love? Essentially, and what I teach on the path through the mirroring processes and through the shadow work that we do and the forgiveness work around relationship, what we want to recognize is that whatever's happening outside of us is some version or reflection of what's happening on our inner landscape. And so as this training pours through each year, I find myself saying pretty regularly to my ladies that we really have to train those around us how to treat us. We get to train those that we're in relationship with how to treat us. What does that mean? So there's this perception and belief that people should just know how to treat someone respectfully or lovingly or compassionately. The thing is we don't actually get that training any point in our lives. Unless you're you grew up in a special environment or school where you had conscious parents that were on a spiritual path and really tuned in and conscious of their language and the way they treated you, or you went to a school where compassionate communication and conflict was handled well, and most of the people I know didn't do that, which is why our school system needs a major revamp. That's a soapbox for another talk. We're largely not taught things that pretty much matter. And relationship and compassion and self-love and treating ourselves with compassion and understanding and how that extends out to relationships outside of us is a huge one. And you heard me talk recently about compassionate conflict. Handling conflict respectfully is huge, is a spiritual path within itself. This is an extension of that. So the core of this essence in relationship especially is however we want to be treated in relationship is up to us. We must reflect that by the way we treat ourselves. And so if we want to be in a relationship that's compassionate and understanding, we get to bring compassion and understanding to ourselves. If we want to be in a relationship that's sexy and spicy and you feel turned on, then how do you feel turned on and sexy and spicy with yourself? How do you cultivate that within yourself? If you want to be, if you want to feel creatively expressed and understood and recognized for the unique spiritual being that you are, then you get to have that recognition and respect and awareness within yourself first. So that's the concept that we work with on this path of the healing power of self-love. And once we turn our lens within, we focus that focus that we've had on the outside of the circumstances outside of us. If this thing will finally handle itself, then I will feel. If this person will finally treat me in this way, then I will feel that. If this, getting my point, if I feel this way in my work relationship, then finally I'll feel successful or worthy or understood. What if you cultivate those states of being within yourself now, outside of the outside circumstances? And you hear me talk about this a lot, regardless of the topic. How can you cultivate the desire that you want to feel outside of yourself, whether it's your career, relationships, or in your community and network? However you want to feel, how can you cultivate that state of being within first? And this is where having a grounding spiritual practice that you feel aligned with and centered in is really important, because this is where you anchor and ground that energy and connect with it on a daily basis. So for me, starting a morning practice with guided meditation process, dance movement, stretching, tuning into my body is primary first. And within the afternoon, typically walking outside, connecting in the natural elements, breathing the fresh air, tuning into the spirit nymphs and gnomes and fairies that I connect with regularly, my anchoring and grounding. That's how I prepare for these talks every Tuesday. So those pieces keep me clear and grounded within myself. It doesn't mean that I don't have upset and confusion and misunderstanding and sometimes don't know which way to turn. That's a part of life. We all have that. But until you have a space and time where you connect on a regular basis with yourself outside of any outside distraction, really tune into who you are and what you want for your life, then you really can't expect life to go in your direction that you're desiring, because you need to know self first. You need to know who you are and what you desire first, and really cultivate and tune into that through self-love, self-care practices. So self-care being anything that cultivates love, compassion, understanding, connection within you. You know, hot baths in the wintertime, pretty much an evening thing for my husband and I before bed. Nourishing food connects me with my body temple, that I feel a connection to the natural world. A regular connection with my sisters, whether it's my mastermind sisters in business or in my direct community or my spiritual community, regular connection there. So I feel really supported. Nurturing, loving, compassionate relationships that I cultivate regularly. All these things are an aspect of self-care. Of course, body work, acupuncture, all the things that we do for our wellness support, buying healthy foods, being creatively expressed, getting into painting classes, which has been a fun thing to do here in the wintertime, my husband and I are doing. So knowing what you need to have all these aspects of yourself spoken to, nourished, fulfilled. And so I was doing my private sessions with my high priestesses and our women, our level 1 course today. And we were, doing our grounding before and our debrief after with my High Priestess Collective. And we were just chatting some about the ways we've seen ourselves morph and change on this path, and the power of these self-care practices, and the power of setting boundaries, of knowing yourself enough that you can say no to things you know aren't serving you any longer, so you have the energy to say yes to the things you know that you're desiring to call in more of. And so an aspect of this that many of us avoid because it's uncomfortable, because we're empathic, spiritual, sensitive women, is that you're probably going to disappoint some people at some point. Because on this path of awakening, we recognize that there's been certain ways of being that we've been treating ourselves that aren't the most supportive. We've gotten, often most of us, awakened to aspects of relationships that just aren't serving any longer, that we know need to shift and change, that have not been the healthiest patterns. We all have it. And so when we bring that into our awareness, we recognize there's been patterns and dynamics that we've worked out that we've been part of creating that have become a certain way of being in relationship. And when we decide to shift, change, and morph that and renegotiate the agreements in the relationship, sometimes we can have some challenge pushback. Because, and I use this metaphor a lot because it really gives a great visual. If you've been used to doing a certain dance move, like for me, I love the Latin dances. If you're used to doing salsa, you've been dancing salsa for 20 years, and all of a sudden you want to learn tango. I literally had this experience when it happened. A little delay in my video. Hopefully you can see me fine. Let me know how the video quality is actually, because something's been happening with Facebook lately, and we've been sending feedback, but not sure they're getting it. Anyway, you've been doing a certain dance move, say salsa. You want to learn tango. You're reworking your wiring in your body. You're learning a new way. So if you've been dancing salsa with someone in a set pattern in your relationships for a long time, and you introduce a new concept, a new way of being, a new possibility, they may not be up for it right away. And so you've got to be willing to stand strong in who you are and what you want, and to set those desires and speak them with compassion and love, as I teach on the path, and recognize that you're important enough to have the conversation of renegotiation based on the way you are now treating yourself, and be detached from their response. That's a huge piece, to be detached from their response. Because we can't be responsible for how someone else may respond to us. It can't hold us back from living our truth and authenticity in this life. So how they respond is on them. That's their karma dharma. And they can decide to learn the new dance with you. This is, the metaphor for learning a new way of compassionate communication, or whatever you want to negotiate in your relationships. This is love relationship, this is business relationship, family dynamics. I've been through the gamut with all of it. It's an opportunity to do things differently, and you will find those that are ready and willing and able and desirous to move forward in the new dance, and you'll find that those that aren't will fall away, that those relationships it's time to release and let go of. And so often I find that with myself and my priestesses and even my sisters in community, that the fear of how the person will respond is so strong, it holds us back from saying the thing, having the conversation. And so here's my question to you. How willing are you to continue to sacrifice yourself out of the fear of the unknown of how the other will respond? And this is the other as an individual. This could be about you stepping out with your spiritual gifts, and how will my friends respond through social media? Will my family accept me? This is all stuff women go through on this path, because we recognize we've not been living fully in our spiritual truth and authenticity. And so this path is about clearing away all of the baggage and trauma from the past, and the layers of resistance and the wounding that made us put up walls that closed our hearts over the years. All of that gets peeled away. And so much gets released and let go of. And when that happens, the space for the new is then created. The space for the new you, the integrated you, the spiritually grounded you, the one that's in love with yourself, that knows what you want and now is not afraid to speak it with love and compassion. And once you go through this 9-month rebirthing process, this organically unfolds. And then you get so much clear about who you are and what you want. It becomes much easier. But in the beginning, it could be challenging. It could be, shaky, because we're getting ready to say something really important, just to use that as an example. And it all comes back to self-love. It all comes back to self-care and self-compassion, the first pillar of the path. And so pulling out your journal and pen, a couple of probing questions for you to play with moving forward. If I were to, this is you writing this down, if I were to love myself completely, all of my wounds, all of my baggage from the past, all of my old ways of being, all the aspects of myself that I've pushed away, my shadow parts, all of it, what if I welcomed it all to the table? What would be possible for me in my life? Wow. What if I could love all of it? So that's what we do on this path, is we, as Rumi would say, we invite all the aspects of ourselves to the table for tea. And we look at those parts that we've pushed away and neglected, those parts from the past, from old wounding and decisions that we made that we're ashamed of. We welcome it all. We do forgiveness work, release work, shadow work. We allow it to all be a part of who we are, because it's actually really important that we welcome all those parts back, because it's the flip side of all those parts that we've pushed away that brings our gifts forward, that allows us to integrate all aspects of ourselves, that allows us to be whole and complete and full again. We already are, but the wounding within our own minds that separated those aspects of ourselves we're not proud of, we've compartmentalized. That it's safe for me to be myself here with these certain people, but definitely not here or here. This path is about full integration of all parts of self. So what would be possible for you if you could fully love all of those parts back to wholeness? And it starts with self-compassion, self-love, self-care. So what are 3 things that you could write in your journal now that you love to do, that you maybe have not been doing? Maybe wintertime has held you back from doing it, or finances or time or energy, or you're just not sure how. What are 3 things that you could do over the next week, take action on, around self-care and self-compassion, self-love, that you know are things that you need to be doing? Whether it's a new type of exercise you want to do, connection with the natural world, connect with a sister, maybe a conversation that you need to have based on the past to let go and to heal and move on. Maybe it's an artistic project you've been wanting to dive back into, that's all the painting brushes and canvases are packed away in the closet. You want to pull that back out again. Some direct action that's related to and linked to your self-love, self-compassion, self-care, that can start to open up that conversation. As we move closer into spring equinox, the energy of celebration and renewal and rebirth and regrowth is coming. And so spring will return. For some of us, this is the most intense time right now. It's been cold and wet. And even on a walk today, it was like the DocuWeather or whatever thingamajigger app said, feels like 21. But it was sunny, and I wrapped up anyway and did the thing. And I went to my little fairy garden in the woods. It was amazing. So do it anyway. So what excuse have you been having that's holding you back from doing the thing? Are you willing to do it anyway? So that is my training for tonight, ladies. It's so wonderful to be here with you always. Again, welcome new women to the temple. And join us tomorrow for a very special alchemical wealth money activation that my sister Jennifer Love is going to be bringing to us. This is actually the first time I've invited anyone in to do a full hour-and-a-half teaching. So she's actually going to take us through a process of activating our garden of wealth within. So it's going to be an extension of this conversation we've been having tonight, this week of self-love and celebrating love and abundance and compassion is going to continue tomorrow, 3 o'clock EST. Put that in your calendar, set a reminder, 3 to 4:30, bring a journal and a cup of tea. It's going to be a really powerful activation. She's going to share her process of wealth activation and tapping into your garden of wealth and understanding more about how we hold ourselves in relation to money and abundance, and specifically the energy of wealth. So join us for that. It's going to be incredible. So excited about it. Tomorrow, Wednesday, whatever the date is, the 17th, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Excited to have you here for that, right here streaming into the temple. I'll be streaming from my business page via Zoom, because we're going to make a recording of that to share with her community as well. So you'll see me go live through my business page here in the temple. So you'll see that notification as soon as we go live. I'm very excited about that. And stay tuned for more juicy things coming as we move close into spring here. So excited to be here with you. Would love to hear what you received from tonight in the comments, as always, so it can hold you in connection, and let me know who joined and where you're joining from. Would love to hear that. Much love and blessings for now, and see you ladies tomorrow. Bye for now.